Hello Game Gumshoes fans, Chris here with another review. This time on Game Gumshoes Presents, I have both, yes I said both, Walking Dead board games. The first one is by Cryptozoic. It is based on the TV series, and a couple of things I want to highlight about the game is, one, the board. In this case, the board is a rubberized play mat. I think it's really nice, really slick. One downside is the corners don't quite roll out the way you would want them to. You have a nifty little bag of parts, which has your character pieces, you have your stands, you have little ally tokens, and you have 1d6. For those of you who are uninitiated into games, D6 stands for a six-sided die. Depending on how your game is going, you have Team Zombie and Team Survivor buttons. It does play up to 4 people, but for whatever reason, you get to start off with 6 main characters. In this version, you have Andrea, you have Dale, of course you have Rick, there's Shane, Lori, and Glenn. Now, you will notice some difference because the other game has almost the same 6 starting characters. The main difference being, in this, instead of having Lori, the other game has Tyrese. The cards are actually a pretty good quality. These are the scrounge cards. They all have different colored backs, so scrounge is kind of a cream color. Your walker cards are red, and those will be needed for something else. And then you have the encounter cards. Now, the encounter cards, you start off with all of them. The scrounge cards, you actually only use 10 per player. So if you're having all 4 players, you can use the entire set of scrounge cards, but otherwise, take some out. The whole purpose behind this version of the game is that you are trying to collect 4 different locations and make it back to camp. Now, to put that into perspective, the locations are each of the 4 corners. The camp is dead center. Now, there are walkways that only the walkers can go on, and when I say walkers, it's going to be you. Definitely you. Because I have yet to see a game where the people won. It's always been death for everyone. Because while you're playing, you essentially start off with a 3-strike rule. You have your little ally tokens, which you get 2 of, and then 2 more go into a pot per player. And when you get hit or bit or whatever, which means you've failed an encounter, the ally tokens go first. They leave the game entirely, although you can gain back allies based on different cards that you can play. The thing is, though, once you basically get those 3 hits, you're dead. You fall down, and on your next turn, or what would have been your next turn, you resurrect as a zombie, and you switch over to the walker cards, and you start chasing around your fellow players. It's kind of interesting in that respect. One of the things that bothers me about this game, though, and I don't know if, they just thought it would be neat, nifty, cool, whatever, but this is the inside of your box. The only problem is, and you may have heard me fooling around with this, is you actually kind of have to press the plastic in such a way, and see, I pulled and didn't get all the cards out of the spot because it's just too tight to hold. Now, normally, I like it when the spaces are nice and tight and the cards don't fall all over the place, but in this particular case, it's a bit of a hindrance. I've actually considered putting them in a different box just because this just annoys me. But because how long I'm going to have this game and how often we play it, I keep it. Now, the other one is by Z-Man Games. Now, it is based off the comic book art. And one of the really cool things is your rulebook actually looks like it should be one of the comic books. And, it goes over everything in fine detail. Again, you start off with 6 starting characters. These are your cards for that. You have encounter cards, location cards, follower cards. In this game, you actually have a lot more allies, whereas the other ones are just kind of generic. On Cryptozoics, you have kind of generic allies. In this one, they're actually specifically named allies, and each of them have different little abilities and everything. So you've got Susie, Rachel, Morgan. Morgan's kind of cool. Dwayne, his son, is a pain. And so's Carl, go figure. But you've got Carol and other characters that you may not have heard from in the show. One of the ones I recommend trying to get, if you can win him over, is Herschel. Herschel's really good because he helps reduce your hits. Now, when you start out this game, you have your main character cards, and your board actually looks really cool. It is a quad fold board, and it looks like the comic book version of a map of Atlanta in the center, and then the outlying areas. And it has nifty little side information that's, like don't go there, and I think there's a prison over here to locate where that's at. Now, as you can see, there's a starting space for Dale. He and whoever his one follower are will start off in that location, and this is really cool. When you step off a location, zombies appear in those locations. And the way that you have encounters is, let me back up a little bit. To start off, each player is going to have their main starting character and one of these cards. Now, something I do recommend to Z-Man Games is that since you only have 6 main characters and 6 playmats, why not just integrate the card into the mat? Save yourself printing up all these extra little cards. I think it would help. But each player starts with one of each resource. You'll see there's food, ammo, and gas. Of course, you need those to get around and do things. You'll need your character, and he comes with a little stand. And then whatever follower you get, there are little tokens that actually show the picture and the character that's on there. The tokens are for if you should happen to lose your follower during a confrontation. Say they take 3 damage and they have to basically be left in whatever square you're on. And the only way to get these people back is to go back and revisit the squares. But usually, if you left them behind, chances are you got attacked by a zombie, so you better be prepared to defeat the zombies that were on that space. If you check out our Facebook page, you'll actually see a picture of what one of the last boards looked like for us. We played it again today, oddly enough. The encounters are cool. They switch between fighting zombies and doing random things, like siphoning off gas and what have you. The object of this game, though, is that you want to capture 3 location cards. Now, you'll start off with one secret location that only you can go to, and the board starts off with 3 locations. The 3 locations, basically, anybody can go to. You can't go to any of the locations that aren't revealed yet. So, basically, you're running around gathering resources and creating zombies most of the game, which is kind of cool because it makes it very difficult, and you have to make some serious decisions if you happen to get in that. Now, we did find there was one weapon that was really kind of cool. As long as you had gas, you could blow up all the zombies surrounding you. Something that this version of the game uses, that I've seen pop up recently, ever since I saw Coffins and Tombstones, was the special dice. As you can see, they're red, green, and the one black die. The black die is your blam die. If you happen to use your ammunition, you roll the blam, and if it happens to land on the word blam, you've attracted zombies. And there are blam 1, blam 2, and blam 3. But they also have increased amounts of zombies that can be killed with the blams. So, and each of the dice represents different types of people. Like your more violent, can kill them all kind of people, they have the red. In fact, let's see, pull up the rulebook here because it's skilled like that. Where is it? Okay, so with your dice, your blue ones are your hero dice. And they represent heroic, versatile, so they have a little bit of everything on it. A nice mix of hats, yes, hats, blanks, and zombie heads. Red's your fighter die. And it actually has more kills. And I don't think... Yeah, it does have at least one hat on it. So it's not too search heavy, which is what the hat's for. And then there's the scavenger dice, which is the green one. And it's used for a lot of the scavenging type things when you want to go and collect things and what have you for resources purposes. One thing that we found today was there were a lot of cards that have pick 2 people or everybody in the group that's playing the game, you know, has to agree on something or disagree on something. Otherwise, people take penalties. That's really cool. Mostly because we're like that when we play. But I know I mentioned, you know, one thing I didn't really like about the Cryptozoic game, and an easy remedy for the Z-Man game, which I'm going to fix today personally with Ziploc bags, is that there are a lot of tokens. Now most of them are zombies, because you got to have them to place on the board. Some are your resource chips, to where you track. Some are plus 10s on the resources for when you go above and beyond, which I haven't seen yet. Here are your wound markers. A person gets 3 of these before they're knocked out of the game. And yes, it is possible to die in the first 3 turns. You can just ask Doug. He knows all about that. In fact, if you're watching, Doug, sorry. But it's Mike's fault, not mine. But, you know, this one's actually a really good game. It's one that gets broken out a lot. It's kind of preferred, but I've actually had it just a little bit longer than I had the Cryptozoic version. But after you've collected your 3 location cards, you actually win the game. Now, something about the location cards is they have a first location, second location, and third location written on them. Now you're thinking, but it's in, you know, whatever position. Well, the thing is, when you're collecting your first one, you go by the first location rules. If it's your second location, you go by the second location rules. And if it's your third, you go by the third location rules. If you cannot match those rules, you cannot go onto those spaces, because you will not win. Plain and simple. And so, ooh, I just saw something I'm going to have to try out next time. But that's the Z-Man Games version. Check out both the Cryptozoic and the Z-Man Games Walking Dead board games. They're both fun, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for joining me.